When was the last time you read a book, Sabyasachi?
I am reading a book right now, actually. But no, very honestly, the last time I read a non-fiction book was a very long time ago.
I think it makes us both a little nervous to be sitting here knowing we haven't read a book for a long time, and someone who has way more briefs than us has a library where he's definitely read a lot more books.
Yeah.
But we're here today because Mr. Hariharan is on his second outing, contesting for the post of president of the DHCBA, and we were a little curious to ask him why, with so many briefs and as such a well-established senior advocate at the bar, he is choosing to do this.
Hi Manath, what brings you here on a Saturday?
Sorry to disturb you on a Sunday, sir. We know it's your siesta time, but we just had a few questions and we try being as brief as possible.
I'm in for a testing time, that means.
Sir, as young members of the bar, we look up to you as one of the foremost litigators and senior advocates today. Why should we look at you as a president we would want at the DHCBA?
See Manath, as far as this question is concerned, there is a dichotomy of thought is what I feel. And the dichotomy is this, that you consider a practicing lawyer as different and opposite and opposed to a politician. As I look at it, the dimension is completely different. I feel that these roles are essentially complementary to each other. What I feel is that politics essentially defines. It is not something, a bad word which you have to, segregate it in some way and keep it divorced from practice as such. Politics as such essentially relates to the place where you are and what you do. Now the place where I am is the bar. And what I do is that I practice at the bar. Now there has to be a concern in relation to the two. And it is that concern which brings me around. The other thing is that in relation to why I am here again, last time when I contested, I found that I had tried to beat a different path from normally what politicians do. I had offered my services in a different way, and I found that there was acceptance for that. If you look into the poll figures, I polled around nearly 1600 votes, 1580 to be precise, and the person who won by a margin of around 600 odd votes. So by and large, there was a huge audience which felt that it is time to change. I personally feel that it was an expression for change. And change is the order of life. When I say that, what I mean is that when you bring different kind of people onto the table, they come with different sets of ideas, which are more innovative maybe, or less innovative maybe. But the ideas are different all the same, albeit the same. Everybody is essentially blessed with a different set of abilities. So more different kind of abilities will come onto the table. We will address the problem in a different way maybe. And I don't say that all that I will do will be right. There will be situations where I may not be right on occasions and I may be wrong on occasions. And that is exactly why I say that it requires a change. Somebody who comes after me or somebody who comes thereafter will probably do what I did wrong in the right way. So it is a constant relationship. And in fact, I remember a quote which one of the persons who's now no more amongst us, a lawyer, in one of the elections which I was contesting, which I was not contesting, in fact, where I was supporting somebody. There he had once come up to me and said that, Hari, I know that you're going to vote for the same man again and again, but I have a small suggestion for you. And he said that in chaste, the local vernacular, and it went something like this, that तवे पे रोटी और सरकार अदलती बदलती ठीक रहती है. And today I realize how true he was.
I think there's a little modification of that in Punjabi, and I don't speak Punjabi, but what we say in Punjab, it goes tawe te roti. If you keep it for too long, tawe te roti na palto te jal jayegi.
So you are coming back to the same thought. तो पलटना जरूरी है, and it gives you a different situation altogether.
So, but
when it changes.
As a senior who has a flourishing practice, and I'm sure your cause list has more than like 5-6 matters a day, a major question that a lot of the electorate does have is, will you have the time to be president, and how will you balance your practice and presidency?
Now here, when you look at it in that fashion, yes, as far as practice is concerned, practice is the primary concern of all advocates. It should be the primary concern of the bar. What we are here for, we are here to prove ourselves at the bar as advocates to begin with. But at the same time, I look at this as if, this is the biggest brief that I will get in my lifetime from the bar. It's a brief from the bar. And the amount of passion that I put into my work, I intend putting the same amount of passion here in this brief as well. So, I personally feel that it is a question of how you look at it. And it is not that you don't find time. We find time for everything. For instance, amongst the matters that I do, quite a bit of work that I do is pro bono. I do find time for doing pro bono matters. Either I am appointed pro bono by courts or I do pro bono matters otherwise. It is not that people who do not pay me, I am not rendering my services to them. And pro bono matters include all kinds of things. And during the amount of work that I have done over a period of time, I have been associated with the legal aid of the Delhi High Court on the monitoring committee now for around 5 to 6 years. I have been offering my services to them. Apart from that, I do death sentence matters, both at the Supreme Court, even at the High Court. Those matters require time, and those are people who cannot pay. It does not mean that I don't spend my time on those briefs. And this brief will be of a different kind. This is a brief which will teach me a lot. And I look up to the challenge.
So finally, as young members of the bar, we know that seniors are used to holding fort in court for hours. So we thought we'd switch it up a little bit and we have some rapid fire questions for you, but you have to answer them rapidly. What's your favorite dish?
My favorite dish will be a little interesting. It's called Tahir Shadam.
What's your favorite non-South Indian dish?
Non-South Indian dish would be chole bhature.
Any favorite chole bhature place in Delhi?
Chole bhature, Chacha's chole bhature at the university was a favorite haunt in those days. I still once in a while when I find time,
I think most of us will say it still is.
The choles are more interesting and even the bhaturas are stuffed, so they're different.
If you have to choose between Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma and Dhoni.
Dhoni. I would say emphatically.
Then you say your favorite IPL team is also CSK.
It's going to be CSK.
And at the end, Coldplay, Diljit Dosanjh or Taylor Swift?
What was that?
Coldplay, Diljit Dosanjh or Taylor Swift?
Amongst the three, the only person I recognize is Diljit Dosanjh. And you may ask why, Urtha Punjab. Right? And I also recognize Diljit Dosanjh for another reason. Because my favorite Punjabi folk singer is Gurdas Mann. I hear Gurdas Mann, even today I am transported to the rural lands of Punjab. I feel that kind of worthiness in Diljit Dosanjh's voice as well. And looking into Coke Studio, I hit upon a piece which is sung both by them together. They have collaborated onto a piece.
And it's the song is?
I will have to recollect. I straight away it doesn't come to my memory. But yes, I will. During the course of the interview, if I can recollect, I will definitely come back to that.
Okay. So, who is your favorite author?
My favorite author, again, can't point at one person as a favorite author, When you talk in terms of books, it's just like, say, a corollary, like eating an ice cream. You have different tastes at different moments. So it will all depend on the moment that you are savoring it. So if you talk about authors, I have my range of authors in the sense I go from John Steinbeck to begin with, Grapes of Wrath. Most of the books of Steinbeck were set in the Catskill Mountains there. Travels with Charlie. So there have been a series of books of mice and men. Apart from Steinbeck, also I have been interested in the short story genre, and I find that Somerset Maugham has interested me as a great short story writer. But going not very far from our place, we have Saadat Hasan Manto, one of the greatest writers of short stories. In fact, I remember a short story just running into 4 lines. One of the most effective short stories I have ever seen. So, Manto is there, and then you have H.H. Munro, who is also known as Saki on the short story genre. You have Ernest Hemingway, for instance, Old Man and the Sea. That's one of the greatest books that I have come across. It's the story of one old man trying to hunt a whale. And 100 pages written on that. And you just don't know how time passes. So, I cannot name one author in that sense. I like Kushwant Singh as well. I like Ruskin Bond as well. When you talk in terms of nature,
Do you get a lot of time to read with your briefs and
once upon a time the time was much more. Now, of course, briefly in between, whenever I can snatch time, I do try and put in some 10 to 20 odd pages. But there's one thing that I have realized, because this is like multitasking which you people do. So I generally start a book and some 10 odd pages I read, and then I start another one sometime, whatever I can gather, and 10 odd pages from there. So it goes on like that, like multitasking.
so what's your favorite legal book? Since I
My favorite legal book, legal books otherwise are not very great favorites. But that one has to do for a living, to be very frank. And as you know, that I am an accidental lawyer. So the favorite legal book, of course, since I relate to the field of criminal law, there is a very interesting book from where some basics of criminal law I gathered over a period of time. It is called The Law of Crimes by a man called Shamsul Huda. This book was written in the late 19th century, but the conceptual aspects of criminal law have been beautifully and lucidly mentioned in the said book. That is one. I also found one of the Indian authors in relation to the writings, because I dealt with a lot of evidence in my course of trial. Elements of Evidence, a small book by a great writer, Vepasarathi. Why I like Vepasarathi? Because he had that uncanny ability to combine law with literature. So it makes a great read. Whether it is, elements of evidence written by him, or it is interpretation of statutes written by him, you will really enjoy it.
Sir, we know that you have a lot of interests besides the law. And I think one thing you always made a point to teach younger people is that you should always have interests outside the law. You host Kalavid, which is a music concert about a few times in 2-3 years. Who is your favorite music
Manan,
composer?
let me just make some corrections. Kalavid is hosted every year. The only time we had a break was when COVID happened, and we returned post-COVID in 2023. This was a society which was founded way back in 2008. Now I could say I'm 16 years old in that field. The idea was to create a stage so that youngsters who are yet to get recognition could share a stage with those who are established artists. So we have done these soirees over a period of time, and a number of artists have played on that forum. And I'm very glad that a lot of youngsters also got exposure in relation to that. Now, to the aspect that yes, you should be, if you want to be a good lawyer, this is my take, and I believe that I share this feeling with a lot of people. In fact, if you read what Fali had written or what Suri Sorabji had written, all of them, or say what Kapil Sibal also professes, all of them have a keen interest in various activities. You'll be surprised to know that Kapil Sibal, for instance, is a script writer. Are you aware of that? He does that on a non-day room. He uses a non-day room. He's a script writer for films. I happen to know that because of a few meetings which I had with him when those scripts came into picture. So I can vouchsafe for that.
So if you could choose again, would you
And
be
then, what to talk of? Disciplines, I feel that they are all interrelated at one stage. You'll be surprised to know that Carl Linnaeus, the man who is also called the father of botany, a man who brought the taxonomic system, the Latin names that you see, botanical names that these plants have or animals have, their entire system of classification was done by Carl Linnaeus, who was a lawyer by profession.
You studied botany, if I'm not
I also studied botany, that's how I know about Carl Linnaeus. I did life sciences, yes.
So if you could choose again, would you choose the law, botany, or being a musician?
Well, it could be a combination of all. Why choose and bracket yourself into one? And the musician, yes, I could say that as far as music is concerned, I am an avid lover of music, and it's not that I play any instrument or I sing. Apart from bathroom singing, there's nothing much that I can claim.
So who's your favorite sportsman? You have a cricket team and a football team.
Sports is all about a struggle. Whether you have adversity or not, it is always a question of struggle, and it's healthy struggle, competition, and it fosters in team spirit, it fosters in sportsman spirit. How to lose, it teaches you. So sports is something which is very dear. Because without that, it doesn't complete you as a person. And Takash comes to my mind is Takash. And we would say, who is Takash? Takash was a Hungarian who specialized in the rapid fire pistol round. And as things would have it, he was also in the army. And while practicing before the World War started, because he also participated in the World War, there was a grenade which burst and it took away his shooting arm, which was the right arm. But then that didn't deter him. He learned how to shoot with the left arm. And not only shoot, he went on to get 2 gold medals in the Olympics. And 2 different Olympics. The London Olympics, followed by the Helsinki Olympics, where he won the 25-meter rapid-fire pistol round.
Since you're a man of many hats, if you could meet 5 people from history, who would those 5 people be?
Well, to add to that list, in fact, I would like to meet a lot of people, if I'm given a chance. For instance, I would like to meet my parents again. They are now history. But then, if you ask for characters as such, Helen Keller would be one. Right? Helen Keller is an inspiring character because when she was 19 months old, she had an attack of rubella, and an able person became disabled. She lost her vision and she became deaf. And her entire life is a story of struggle against these 2 handicaps which were unintended. She overcame these 2 in the sense that the fact that she became deaf and was not unable to hear sound. She managed to devise a system where she would, touch the lips of a person and try and make out what the person is saying. At the same time, feel his vocal cords to understand the kind of sound that was there. So, something that was phenomenal, in that sense. And not only that, she trained herself to speak, and all over America in those days, the late 19th century, she was traveling and touring all over states and addressing problems in relation to those who were disabled. So she was a disabled rights activist, and her lectures became legendary. So she is one person I really have great admiration for and would like to meet. You said 5, isn't it? Okay. The second person who really impresses me down the line is Socrates. The Socrates way is a way which I think lawyers would really gain a lot if they take to his way, because his way was to question. And we as lawyers, we need to question. We do not accept standard positions. We try to read between the lines. We question. So the ability to question came from Socrates. He lost his life because of that. You know the famous story where he was fed with hemlock for having certain ideas, and he took hemlock. So Socrates is one would have liked to be his disciple. He had disciples like Plato. And Plato had a disciple like Aristotle. So that lineage is terrific. So he's one man whom I would have definitely liked to be under his tutelage to do something worthwhile in life. Amongst the composers of music, one man who was really, again, impressed me in this form. And he's a man who's very well known. Each one of you has heard the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, right? It begins with that ta-da-da-da, right? So, Beethoven is one, for instance, because Beethoven also had a great life. He became completely deaf. He was absolutely deaf, stone-hard deaf when he composed the Ninth Symphony. And this disability came towards the later part of his life. And yet to be able to compose music, which means that he appreciated the sound of silence, if I could say so. Two people I would name thereafter, whom I would definitely like to meet because of the syncretic traditions which they have upheld, for which our land is otherwise known, Rahim Khan and Kabir. two fascinating characters. One a warrior poet and the other a weaver poet. Hmm? And lines of Kabir which I learned and which I memorized during the times of my course of study somewhere, which each one of you, I'm sure, living in the north would have memorized. We, of course, had difficulties in remembering those lines. Karat karat abhyas ke jadpati ho sujan rasri awat jaat pe sar par parat nisan. So that's all. It speaks in 4 lines the life of a lawyer. तो मैं अभ्यास करते रहना है.
Sir, any adversity you faced as a first generation lawyer? I know you worked with the legendary Mr. P.P. Grover. How was it working with?
Adversity, in the sense, life itself has been an adversity as far as I'm concerned. It was a question of accident everywhere. I stumbled into law. I had no intentions of becoming a lawyer. In fact, my father took pride in the fact that he never ever went to a court of law. And he would rue the fact that he was a son who was going to go and earn his living speaking lies every day out there. That was the conception which my dad had. And yes, adversity in the sense, the time when I joined the profession, my father had retired. And in fact, before that, and during the course of my study of law, I also worked part-time as a journalist. I joined the Patriot then, which was supposed to be a very good training ground. So there have been cusps in my life all around.
How long were you working at the Patriot?
I was with the Patriot for around 3 odd years.
Oh, wow. Through law school?
Through law school. Delhi University Law School gives you that freedom, unlike your law schools.
I'm very much Delhi University Law School.
I stand corrected, because in our times, the considerations of attendance was not that strict, number one. And number two, classes would end by around 11:30, from 8:30 onwards. And we had the whole day to ourselves, and I was on a night shift, so that was okay. So I could manage both. So this kind of dichotomy has always been there in my life. I set out to become a doctor through the desires of my parents, and I ended up becoming a lawyer by accident. And it's also this, that I never managed to get a job. I tried very hard and failed a lot of exams. So adversity it has been right through.